Hello and welcome to This Is MediaCity. I'm Stephen Chapman, and today on the couch I am joined by Nigel Moore, the production director of Fuzzy Duck. Nigel, thanks ever so much for joining us. This is MediaCity. Let's start, first of all, with our yellow cards here, which are our icebreaker, which have questions about, could be almost anything, to find a bit more about you.
Okay. Hidden MediaCity gem.
Yes, you've been here for some time.
Yeah.
What's the thing that people, if they've just come here, might not know about?
To be honest, it's pretty well known probably, but it's a great place with your dogs to go for a quick walk, going across the bridge, past Coronation Street, past the Imperial War Museum, back over, and then if you're wealthy, stop at the Alchemist for a beverage, or if you're like me, tie them up outside Greg's and get a pasty.
Dog-friendly office?
Yep, absolutely. I have two dogs that come in. And I mean, I don't know, obviously some people don't like dogs, but it definitely lightens the mood.
I think it would be, we've not allowed our dogs in the office because they're both golden retrievers, and our office would A, be destroyed, and B, no one would do any work. No. And yes, cameras do not like golden retriever hair very much.
Okay, let's try another one. This is a good idea, this, isn't it? What's your first job in media? So my first job in media was, originally I started to take photography just as a sort of thing in my spare time. And I was still at school. And I ended up getting a bunch of photos into some galleries, and I was thinking, well, actually, this is really enjoyable.
What kind of photos were you doing?
It was mainly street photography,
okay.
Quite sort of unusual, sort of wheelie bins in the middle of a beach in Australia, or a tramp with a cigarette turned inside out in New York, and these random places. And I'd been travelling, really, but it was sort of like, actually, I'm really enjoying this. Why go to uni and do psychology? So I went to uni and did media production.
Which uni did you go to?
Staffordshire University. Okay. And then when I finished there, got a job with two people working as a camera operator. But it was great because I learned a huge amount doing that as Resolution DV, which was the company. And then I got introduced to Dave Hartle, who's MD at Fuzzy Duck. We made a short film together. And then I started doing a bit of camera work for his graphic design company, and he started to do some motion graphics for us in video, and then we merged the two businesses together about 21 years ago.
Since you've been here, because I remember when you came here, there were lots of ducks around MediaCity, and that was at 2014, 15?
Yeah.
What made you come here to start with? Because back then we didn't have quite so much here, but it was still quite a big place.
Good question. So I really didn't want to come here at first, if I'm honest. So
where were you beforehand?
We were in Stockport. So I live in Stockport, and because Dave had merged his company with the company I was working for, and I was given a share in the company, but that had a bigger office. It was an old pub that was converted into an office. So we operated out of there. And it was great. Clients kind of loved it once they were inside. But the problem is there was a lot of smell of weed on the outside. There was an old skate park. There was a scrapyard. It just wasn't...
Perfect for street photography.
Perfect for street photography. I felt right at home, but we didn't belong there. And I think what Dave always felt was that, looking at somewhere like MediaCity or maybe somewhere in town we'd feel like as a creative company we'd belong there. But I'd been to MediaCity and it just felt a little bit dead, if I'm honest, But then Dave came back a couple of years after I'd been, and he said, you know what, people were outside on deck chairs and it was great, let's go and have a look. And then, we moved in and we made the move, and it's quite daunting when you run in a business, quite a small business. Rent is one of the big costs apart from staff.
Rent, rates, staff,
and so we moved into the greenhouse, and that was great. It was that, and I think
the greenhouse is gone now. Greenhouse the greenhouse was built originally when they were building MediaCity.
It was basically the offices.
Construction office as well.
Yeah, so it was a 3-floor massive set of containers that was an office block for building MediaCity, and when that was finished and BBC moved in, it was like, well, what do we do with this thing? Oh, actually, why don't we set it up as cheap rent for companies who could not afford the normal sort of offices? So we were there.
It was a really interesting kind of mixture of companies in there, wasn't there?
It was, and that was the main thing, and it allowed us to grow.
What difference did MediaCity make to your company then? Did it make you kind of feel that you'd gone up a level and get to different clients as a result?
What happened was, and to be fair, even if it was only this, that's fine. It changed the team's mindset. I think we felt more confident in ourselves as a business. And then we noticed we got a massive increase in the number of our clients who wanted to then come and visit us, partly because they knew their car was safe parking outside. But I think it was, and this was pre-COVID, so it changed again after that. But I think it did, in the short term, mean that everyone noticed the address, and I think it added a layer of I forget to think of the word now, but
it's authentic, isn't it?
You're
a real business in inverted commas.
Yeah, and it kind of gave it a sense of us being legitimate and of a certain level of professionalism.
It's funny how much an address, because we were based in my house when we first started, and then when we moved to MediaCity, however many years ago, almost 10 now, I think. And then suddenly clients wanted to come and visit us all the time. And one, they shared a lift with Russell T Davies. It's like, oh, this is the most... when can we come again? When can we come again?
Yeah.
Everything changes. A small business.
Yeah.
Just that little bit of magic glitter just changes the conversation.
One of my friends was absolutely loving it when she came to visit because Andy Burnham was in the lift, and for some reason she's got a thing about Andy Burnham. That's But no, you're right, and I think so. But afterwards, it was then a case of actually we have done some. We've now done work with MediaCity as an organisation and helped with specific types of.
Well, you did one for the MediaCity. You say it's MITI.
MITI, yeah.
So that was the innovation kind of part. And so you did, which I think is it still running on the website now?
Yeah. So we did an intro film for them. We did some stuff for the future planning of MediaCity with the MediaCity group and as Landsec took over from them. So we work with all sorts of clients, but for those particular films, we were actually quite a good fit to do those, which was great.
Pressure's on though when it's your landlord.
It is, but yeah, I suppose it's a case of, again, I've learned to try and be confident in what we do. And there's that real difficulty in business of you wanting to feel confident in what you do and putting forward what you suggest. And if clients don't want it, being willing to accept that sense of failure and we didn't win that job, but being confident and say, well, that's just the way it is. The problem is our industry. I mean, I'm going off here, but our industry is so self. We really like to kick ourselves, and unfortunately, we have now got a real let's pitch for everything. Let clients ask 5 companies to work on a £5,000 film. Of which every company will spend 2 or 3 days working on some creative and putting it together, and that's sort of like a challenge, isn't it? I think we're working on one right now, and we've had 3 people working on it for 2 weeks. It's worth £170,000. It's for a decent, high-profile client, but there's a high probability. There's a 1 in 4 of getting it. So it has a big impact on then your ability to do other stuff.
But it is a huge risk.
Yeah.
I've not ever pitched. That's not to blow my own trumpet in any way.
But that
it's
is
because
great.
it's just because I look at it and think, I know this is ultimately either... Because when you do it for a broadcaster, for example, you kind of guess if you're pitching for it, it's probably going to go to someone they know, or it's going to be on price. The chances of you winning them over purely on the creative, if you don't already know them or they haven't already had that chat, is going to be really tough. And we kind of took a decision that if there are going to be many people in the pitch process alongside us, is it worth our while to spend the time and money doing it? And it is a tough thing. We've, in my other job as writing on Prolific North, you see like somebody's won a 12-way pitch for something. I think 12 companies.
Yeah, and I think that's just obscene. Now, but who's at fault? Is it them for asking for 12 people to do it, or is it us going in on
it's a
12.
bit of both, though, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's self-fulfilling in a way.
Yeah.
It's like there's the argument that maybe the client doesn't know what they're after and has just gone, right,
Yeah.
throw the cards out and see who comes back with the thing. But obviously, if you're looking for work, it's very difficult to say, well, that's potentially worth
It is.
170 grand, isn't it?
Yeah, but so yeah, it's always very difficult. We were taught, or I was told by Dave, who was told by someone, and we live by this. It's the 3 Fs. Is the job you're looking at doing either going to make you a fortune, make you famous, or be fun to do? And it has to have 2 of the Fs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll add a 4th F in. and that's been a great barometer, really, to gauge. But you're right. Most of the time, they know who they want to work for, or who they want to work for them.
Yeah. Or they've know they have to pitch out to 3. So they need to find 2 others to give them.
So we're a filler sometimes, and you know you're a filler.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a funny one, but I just, where possible, I think we as an industry need to maybe try and think of other ways of do we ask, look, if you're, I don't know, if you're going to get divorced, do you ask 5 lawyers to write you a divorce letter and see which one sounds the best? No, you don't, because lawyers have got it right. In a way, they charge all the same. It's really expensive, and if you don't want it, well, don't have a lawyer.
I think there'll be lots of people typing into AI, and here's your pitch.
Well,
they all look very similar.
Yes, and there you go into another thing, the AI thing. But anyway, yeah, let's get back on track.
But obviously, with the pitching, you've done well because some of your clients are huge. United Utilities is one of them, isn't it?
Yes. And I've been very lucky. But again, ironically, that all of that came about from just doing something quite very small 18 years ago, and then slowly working with them and going through good client management, through doing good work, and hopefully not ever taking the mickey or overcharging.
What is it that you would, if you were summing Fuzzy Talk, what you do?
Yeah.
What is it?
So yeah, good question. We wrangle with that all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a problem with production companies nowadays, isn't it?
Our mantra is crafting much loved stories as a creative studio. We always our skill sets, our crafts are in using either live action, animation, or graphic design, and then implementing or presenting that in innovative ways to people. So you might watch our content on a website or on YouTube, but we don't really have any barriers in how we do it. So if it's like, well, actually, let's get an environmental housing and tell the story of Dartmouth Castle inside the turret of the castle, which the tide comes in and out of underneath, and we projection map it into that area, we'll do it. Or if we want to, we work with a design company called Mather & Co, who design lots of museum exhibitions, and they came to us with.
They're based in Wilmslow, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And Chris Mather, Kim, the team there. What they come to us with is some really random requests or really interesting challenges.
They have some amazing installations, Mather & Co. They do some really exciting things.
And so when we get to work with them, it's things like, okay, at the World of Golf Museum, so Royal and Ancient run at St Andrews, it's, okay, the board table, we're going to make a new version of that board table, but let's make it touch sensitive and project onto it. So when you look at different objects on the board table, it brings it to life. We have all sorts of clients wanting us to do all sorts of different things. But what I enjoy doing is us looking at, okay, how do we create that media and get people to consume it in a way that they're not expecting to, and how can they enjoy it and be surprised by it and surprised by the magic of it. Let's backtrack it a little bit. So what does Fuzzy Duck do? Well, Fuzzy Duck is all about trying to communicate a set of stories or core bits of information, but we're not slave to one craft.
Are you concentrated on the content, or when you're doing or the platform as well? Do you do platform based stuff too, or is it merely the content for the platform you're using?
Mainly it's content for platform. So on different jobs more recently, we are doing a lot more of both, where we're handling So, for instance, we've just completed a film that is going to go into Hardwick Hall for National Trust. So we're projecting it onto material in a Hardwick, which is full of tapestries about Bess, who lived around the time of Henry VIII and then through to Elizabeth I, and talking about her dreams and her thoughts before she died. So it's a very abstract piece around telling the audience why this woman built all these properties. She built Chatsworth and Hardwick, so it's bringing back from history. The fact is, this woman who had 8 children and lived to her late 70s around Elizabethan first time and took the royalty to court twice, incredible feminist story back in the day, bringing that to life for a modern audience now. And all of that came about from how do we best deliver that story, and actually we wanted to do it through a tapestry. And so then you think about, well, what's the platform to do that on? Well, actually, let's project onto material. And then you think about, okay, well, how do we change the lighting in the room so when you're watching certain parts of that film, how the lighting changes? And that's what I'm really interested in, is this sort of use of an environment that we consume media in, as opposed to it all being through handheld devices or VR headsets, which is rotting us all, really, let's be honest, Yeah.
So there's a lot more thought. It's because that's more of like a proper installation, isn't it?
Talking
about that.
Yeah, but that, I think that really is where the long-term future of creative, human-led production needs to go. We use AI only so we keep most of it within our own system. So we used to have Google as our system.
Yeah.
So we keep it within the Gemini of that, because we don't really want to be just putting loads of anything creative out. So we don't really do anything creative with it, but we do use it to help process here's a bunch of, pieces of research, and let's condense that into a sort of a single boilerplate page. And the other main area really is in Scratch VO voiceover. So where
as someone who does voiceovers, I just sank in my seat then.
I know, but the thing is, you see,
it makes sense when it's a Scratch, then, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, the point is, I wouldn't want to come to you, and it's good to know you do voiceover. Actually, that's useful to know. I didn't know that, so I'll get.
Hey, but jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, no, it's fine. But as an example, that's where there's no point in us, getting multiple studio time with voiceover artists when we're still in draft script stage.
Yeah. So
having something that's decentish that can be used in a draft
it's better
edit.
than Fred or Dave in the office. Can you just read that out loud for which he
Yeah.
kind of is most of the time?
Yeah.
Is it?
So it's
just
things like that it just makes things a bit easier.
Can you see yourself bringing it in? Because we're having this debate with ourselves constantly. I imagine you probably are a little bit as well. We're having an ethical debate and a moral debate more than anything else on GenAI and AI, because we've got to think about environment, we've got to think about where all this stuff was sourced from as well, and the ownership thing. But at the same time, there's a creativity bit. But if you're using the right Gen AI, I can see how there's human-led AI can make brilliant things. And if you're doing things that cannot be filmed or cannot be achieved in any other way, but then you go back to that, well, hold on, is it environmentally sustainable? Is it ethical in terms of where has this stuff come from? And I imagine there's quite a lot of production companies like ourselves just sitting there, just going through this constant loop in AI.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know whether we've not come up with a particular answer yet on this. Okay, so AI, nothing is useful unless you're asking it the right question. So even with AI, it's going to need somebody having the creative mindset to think, well, I'm going to ask this question of it to produce X. Why do you need X? So I think why are you getting AI to produce it? To me, it is just like sticking a camera to film that brick wall as a texture, or getting this microphone to generate the noise of your heavy breathing because you're excited to see me. Do you know what I mean? These tell us something.
Noticed.
Yeah. So AI is simply another tool in that sense. I think if we look at then the sort of some of these ethical questions, I think that is the real crux of it. How ultimately we work in a sector where we create stuff, and through our creativity we make money off it. So we are probably the worst people to be sort of having to make those decisions on what do we do with it. But I think if you truly sort of know, if you are putting into it the things that you're then asking it to develop and work on, then to me it makes a lot of sense. For I think the big risk area is in coding and in some of the some of the developer roles, where if you know what the outcome is you need and you've done the creative, making sure the code is being put together to make it work in a certain platform is a non-creative task, and I think that's where there's a risk. But at the moment we don't know, do we? We don't know how it's managed. Most, for our clients, some of them say it's a museum. Their value is the collection they have. So if they want to use AI to create something for their visitors to watch or to learn from, where do we put it? Well, if we put it into, I don't know, into one of these learning models from ChatGPT, well, then basically that's offshoring all of that intellect, say the British Museum have, to Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and it goes around the world.
Which is then undermines their value. So you can't do that. How do you ring fence knowledge?
Yeah.
And if people take that knowledge without asking, then that's where you have a copyright infringement. And we need to see those cases go through courts to understand the impact. But people I know who work in gaming studios, large gaming studios for console game development, they are not allowed to create any creative visualization through AI for the thing they're working on, because of some of the issues around this, where the copyrights come from.
It's an interesting argument because it's going to go on. There was a Beyond conference. Did you Beyond? I think Rich Wormwell, previous podcast guest from .10 was, I think he called it, and apologies if I get it wrong, it's augmented intelligence.
Right.
If you kind of rebrand it in that way rather than thinking of it as artificial, that you're putting the human back into it.
Yeah.
Is an interesting way of kind of taking it on.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose that's where I'm saying, well, it's helping. If we put stuff into it, it's helping our thoughts get better. That's probably just us making ourselves feel better about what we're using. Do you know what I mean? Rather than reality is, I mean, it's here. And my mum, who's in her mid-70s, was, has got some new pill for an ailment and was using ChatGPT to find out about it and stuff. So, it's there. It probably will replace Google Desktop as a search engine. But I don't know.
While we're on the future of the industry and everything else, one of your roles is Future Works. So you're on the advisory panel, aren't you?
Yes.
Tell us about Future Works and tell us what you do there.
Okay, so Future Works is a independent university. It's based out of Manchester. It is focused purely on delivering higher education degrees, focused around sort of industry-ready practical courses in music, in gaming, in film, animation. So it's sort of hyper-focused like that. So it works really well for a lot of people who are wanting to go and have an academic experience, be at uni, but are really clear on what it is they want to be doing afterwards.
Like the old technical colleges.
It is almost. I mean, it's like my media production degree I did. It was 80% practical. It was training with cameras and learning to edit and all the rest of it. So one of our animators studied there, and so through, I think we did some visits to them and stuff, and then I was asked, they were setting up this industry advisory group And again, I think that's quite a positive thing. And what our role is making sure that if you're going to focus on producing students who are industry ready, if you're not engaging twice a year with industry, how do you know what you're doing is? And so they do it. They get a whole bunch of us in from different sectors, and we challenge and we ask questions and we give suggestions on how they run their courses. And it's I think it's great. It's also because it's a smaller university, it feels like it's, for some students, I think it's they want a slightly smaller experience. It's more of a family. It's not quite such a big daunting, like the big red bricks.
Yeah, thousands of students.
Yeah. So it's nice to do that.
And so has that helped you in terms of your focus as well at the day job when you're kind of learning everything else?
It does. I mean, just talking to you today will make me go back and probably think about certain topics we've picked up on. Exactly the same happens there. They come to us and say, how are you dealing with, the onset of AI, or how are you, looking at sustainability or the environment in your work? What do we need to do? So it could be any topic really, but it makes you think, well, right, you're asking me, that's a good question. What are we doing? And sometimes it's actually I'll say, to be honest, we're not thinking about that, but sometimes that's a good thing, to be challenged, because I don't know. I trained to be a camera operator, not run a business as such.
I think that's probably the same for most people running production companies.
I think so. Yeah.
So I know you just come off a big project, because that's why we couldn't get hold of you until just now. So what's it looking like for Fuzzy Duck this year? How is it a good year? Are you looking forward to got some big stuff coming up?
Yeah, no, it's a really weird one. When we come off really big projects, we have a lot of turbulence at the end.
Right.
Because most of the money's gone. You're still snagging. And then you also, because you've been so focused on those jobs, have you been keeping all the rest of it going?
You need a good production director.
Yes, I know. If you find one, please let me know, because I would say we are stable in terms of how we're running, but we've got some very exciting projects. We've just last week we're making another 7 films for National Trust for their called Discover Houses. So we did 4 pilots last year, which have gone down very well. One was at Chartwell, Winston Churchill's house, and another one up at Cragside in Northumberland. So we've got a whole bunch. Which
you're getting lots of travel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, the mileage has gone ridiculous. We're turning. We're working on maybe 30 or 40 projects at any one time, but some of them are really small ones, some of them are really big ones, and so it's a lot of spinning plates and balls to juggle.
So how, even though obviously you're a production director in a company that's doing really well, you've got that camera operator, that photography background. How much is your kind of motivation about doing the big jobs and getting the money in versus doing something that's just really amazingly exciting? How do you balance that in your?
So as one of the owners, as one of the Dave's the primary owner, and as 2 directors, we've just had appraisals, so we get feedback from staff to have. So we have, because it's quite hard when you're a senior at the top. Know who's telling you what to do better.
Yeah.
So we do that, and we've done that recently, and that's come up. That's the main problem. Nigel, you're trying to do too much. You're across everything. You're too thin. I suppose 2 answers. One is that I'm now trialing a way of, rather than allocating like set number of hours per day on stuff, I'm just looking at a percentage. So of a week, I need to be doing 30% client management, 30% creative, 20% of this, 10% of that. So then, because my weeks change every week. This week, but as an example, we're making a documentary about the Goyt Valley, which is up near Maxfield, Cat and Fiddle, which is now a gin distillery. Last year,
Is it Forest gin? No.
Well, it's Forest
There's a
gin.
few,
Yeah. I thought you'd know about the gin, but yeah.
We did a film for them years
Oh
ago.
right, well there you go. So so it's weird because again, so the moorland up there, peatland, it's really important to restore it because peatland is like the mother of all carbon stores, and it's also fantastic because we're getting so much more flooding now because of the more irregular patterns. Peatland and the moss is like a fantastic sponge. It holds it all, so it slows that flow, and it's great for United Utilities because it keeps all the peat up on the moorland rather than them having to clean it out of the reservoir. So through our work with RSPB, with National Trust, with Peak District National Park, Moors for the Future Partnership, and with United Utilities, randomly, all these people, we came together through an unfortunate event that there was a fire last year and a huge area got destroyed. And I'm making a documentary with them to talk a year on about what's happened, how's it happening, and how did it affect the people of the Goyt, or the people who love the Goyt Valley. So it's a commissioned piece, but as an example,
is that commissioned to a broadcaster or to the brand?
No, to the group, to the Moorland group. But I think the idea will be to put that into film festivals and make. So while I should really be probably just doing certain things, I've said I just want to direct that one. Do. Documentary film is where I started, and I'd like to do that. But it's that's a really long.
Ruined your percentages for the week.
Absolutely screwed it all up. Yeah.
But then that's the exciting thing of running a creative business, though, isn't it? Because you can.
Yeah, I think.
And we're all rubbish at maths.
Yes. Well, yeah, and so I don't know. But like I say, it's really weird because we will literally have just been talking about that.
Do we know how far along is that? Are we?
So we've shot 5 days after the fire. We went and filmed.
Yeah.
Ultimately, a black landscape. 10 years worth of restored peatland got burnt.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, the way the fire went, they think it will recover, but it was it's quite harrowing. A lot of wildlife died. The curlew, which is the bird that they're trying to protect, it unfortunately stays with its nest regardless of what's happening. So, a lot of wildlife died. We went up there then, and it was only about a few months ago we managed to then say, right, okay, we've got everything in place. Let's now make this documentary. But we now need to finish a version of it by the end of April. So it's a year from the fire.
But if you're getting out for April, 2nd of March, we better let you go, hadn't we?
Yeah. No, it's fine.
You're subtle hint, you've not much time here.
No, it's fine. So no, it's good. But those sort of jobs keep it going.
Well, thank you ever so much for making it over and for coming along. So This Is MediaCity is a 39 pictures production for MediaCity, and in partnership with the University of Salford, and all the team behind the camera are graduates and undergraduates of the University of Salford. So please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you next week. The production team are Meg Bond, Tegan Easton, James Young, Amelia Husselby, Marnie Holdsworth Green, and Rose Lonsdale.